No one prepared me for the silence. Not the silence of a sleeping house, but the silence of suffering behind a forced smile. When people saw me holding my twins, they saw a picture-perfect moment filled with love, joy, and gratitude. What they could not see were the tears I wiped away before anyone entered the room. They could not hear the doubts that echoed through my mind during sleepless nights or feel the weight of exhaustion pressing against my chest every single day. I loved my babies more than words could express, yet I often felt like I was drowning beneath responsibilities I never imagined would be so overwhelming. This is the story of a mother who cried in secret, struggled in silence, and slowly learned that surviving motherhood was not about being perfect, it was about finding strength in vulnerability. Becoming a parent changes everything, but becoming the parent of twins transforms life in ways that few people can truly understand. Double the smiles often come with double the challenges, double the worries, and double the emotional weight. Behind every adorable photograph may exist moments of exhaustion, self-doubt, and loneliness that remain hidden from the world. In today's story, we explore the deeply personal journey of a mother who faced overwhelming challenges while adapting to life with twins. Her experience reveals the emotional reality many parents silently endure and the resilience that grows through hardship. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who might need encouragement. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories that remind us we are never truly alone in our struggles. When I first learned that I was expecting twins, excitement filled every corner of my life. Friends congratulated me, family members celebrated, and strangers often described how special it would be to welcome two babies at once. I imagined matching outfits, synchronized smiles, and countless unforgettable memories. During pregnancy, I carefully prepared the nursery, read parenting books, and convinced myself that organization and determination would be enough to handle whatever challenges awaited me. Yet beneath the excitement lived a growing fear I rarely acknowledged. Every appointment brought new information about risks, responsibilities, and demands unique to twin pregnancies. While everyone focused on the miracle of bringing two children into the world, I quietly wondered whether I would be enough for both of them. I worried about making mistakes, dividing my attention, and somehow failing the tiny lives depending on me. Those fears remained hidden behind smiles because I believed strong mothers were supposed to feel confident, grateful, and prepared for everything ahead. The day my twins arrived was both beautiful and overwhelming. The hospital room buzzed with activity as doctors, nurses, and family members celebrated the arrival of two healthy babies. For a brief moment, everything felt magical. Holding them close, I experienced a love so intense that it seemed impossible for the human heart to contain. Yet, as the excitement faded and reality settled in, I found myself facing a challenge far greater than I had imagined. Feeding schedules overlapped, sleep disappeared, and every hour felt like a race against exhaustion. One baby would finally settle while the other began crying. Moments of rest became rare treasures. Visitors often arrived eager to see the babies, commenting on how lucky I was. I smiled and thanked them, but inside I felt increasingly overwhelmed. The gap between how I appeared to others and how I truly felt grew wider each day, creating a loneliness I had never experienced before. As weeks passed, sleep deprivation became my constant companion. Nights blended into mornings, and mornings blurred into evenings. I could no longer remember what it felt like to rest properly. My body ached from carrying, feeding, rocking, and comforting to infants whose needs never seemed to align. The simplest tasks became monumental challenges. Taking a shower required planning. Preparing a meal felt like completing a marathon. Despite being surrounded by people who cared about me, I often felt invisible because the focus naturally remained on the babies. Conversations revolved around their growth, feeding habits, and milestones. Few people asked how I was truly doing. When they did, I automatically answered that everything was fine. Admitting the truth felt dangerous. I feared judgment. I feared appearing ungrateful. Most of all, I feared confirming my deepest insecurity that maybe I was not handling motherhood as well as everyone expected. So I carried my struggles quietly and continued pretending everything was under control. The guilt arrived gradually. slipping into my thoughts without warning. Whenever one twin needed me, I worried about neglecting the other. If I spent extra time comforting one baby, I wondered whether the other felt forgotten. Every decision carried emotional weight. I compared myself to idealized images of motherhood displayed on social media and in parenting magazines. Other mothers seemed joyful, organized, and endlessly patient. Meanwhile, I felt exhausted, emotional, and constantly uncertain. Even moments of frustration triggered waves of shame. I loved my children deeply, yet there were days when I longed for a few uninterrupted minutes alone. Instead of recognizing these feelings as normal, I interpreted them as evidence of personal failure. The pressure to be everything for everyone became overwhelming. My expectations of myself were impossibly high, and every perceived shortcoming reinforced the belief that I was falling short. The guilt fed on my exhaustion, creating a cycle that became increasingly difficult to escape. There were moments when the emotional burden became so heavy that I cried in secret. I waited until the babies were asleep or until I found a few minutes alone in another room. Those tears were not a reflection of regret or lack of love. They were the release of accumulated stress, fear, and exhaustion. Yet I hid them carefully because I believed no one would understand. Society often portrays motherhood as a naturally fulfilling experience, filled with endless joy and instinctive confidence. My reality felt far more complicated. I loved my twins beyond measure, but I was struggling. Admitting that felt like breaking an unspoken rule. Each hidden cry represented a battle between the image I believed I needed to maintain and the reality I was living. The contrast became exhausting in itself. Carrying emotional pain alone required tremendous energy, and I slowly realized that hiding my struggles was making them even harder to bear. One afternoon, after an especially difficult day, I reached a turning point. Nothing catastrophic happened. There was no dramatic event or major crisis. Instead, it was the accumulation of countless small moments finally becoming too much to carry. I sat quietly while my twins slept nearby and acknowledged something I had been avoiding for months. I was overwhelmed. Saying those words to myself felt strangely liberating. For the first time, I stopped fighting reality and allowed myself to accept it. Motherhood was harder than I expected. Raising twins was pushing me beyond my limits. Admitting these truths did not make me weak, it made me honest. That realization marked the beginning of change. Rather than judging myself for struggling, I began viewing my challenges with compassion. I started recognizing that difficulty did not mean failure. It simply meant I was navigating one of the most demanding experiences of my life. As I became more honest with myself, I gradually opened up to others. The conversations were uncomfortable at first because vulnerability felt unfamiliar. Yet every time I shared a small piece of my experience, I discovered something surprising. Many parents had felt the same way. Some described sleepless nights filled with anxiety. Others admitted struggling with guilt, loneliness, or self-doubt. Hearing their stories helped me understand that my emotions were not unusual. They were part of a shared human experience. The support I received did not eliminate the challenges of raising twins, but it reduced the isolation surrounding those challenges. Instead of carrying everything alone, I began accepting help when it was offered. Family members assisted with practical tasks. Friends listened without judgment. These small acts of support created breathing room within my overwhelmed life. For the first time since becoming a mother, I felt less like I was surviving in isolation and more like I belonged to a community. Over time, I learned that adapting to motherhood required letting go of perfection. The version of motherhood I had imagined before giving birth no longer matched reality, and that was perfectly acceptable. My children did not need a flawless parent. They needed a present one. Some days remained difficult. There were still sleepless nights, unexpected challenges, and moments of frustration. However, I stopped measuring my worth against impossible standards. Instead, I focused on showing up each day with love, patience, and resilience. I celebrated small victories that once seemed insignificant. A peaceful feeding session became a success. A shared smile became a treasure. An uninterrupted cup of coffee felt like a triumph. By shifting my perspective, I began noticing the beauty hidden within ordinary moments. The journey was still demanding, but it no longer felt defined solely by struggle. Joy and hardship existed side by side, creating a more honest picture of motherhood. As my twins grew, so did my confidence. The fears that once dominated my thoughts gradually lost their power. I still made mistakes, but I no longer viewed them as proof of inadequacy. Instead, they became opportunities to learn and grow. Looking back, I realized that strength had never meant appearing fearless or capable at all times. True strength emerged through persistence, vulnerability, and the willingness to continue despite uncertainty. The tears I once hid no longer felt shameful. They represented evidence of effort, sacrifice, and love. Every difficult night, every moment of doubt, and every hidden struggle contributed to the person I was becoming. Motherhood had transformed me in ways I never expected. It challenged me, humbled me, and ultimately taught me lessons about resilience that extended far beyond parenting. Through the chaos and exhaustion, I discovered a deeper understanding of both my limitations and my capacity for growth. Today, when I see other parents struggling beneath invisible burdens, I understand something I once overlooked. Behind many smiles are stories of exhaustion, uncertainty, and quiet perseverance. Parenthood often involves challenges that remain hidden from public view, yet those struggles do not diminish love. In many ways, they reveal its depth. Caring for children requires sacrifice, patience, and courage that frequently go unnoticed. My journey with twins taught me that vulnerability is not weakness, and that asking for support is not failure. The tears I cried in secret eventually became part of a larger story of adaptation, healing, and growth. While the road was far from easy, it shaped me into a stronger and more compassionate person. The experience reminded me that resilience is not about never breaking down. It is about finding the courage to keep moving forward, even when the path feels overwhelming and uncertain. If this story teaches us anything, it is that behind every parent's smile may exist a struggle that others cannot see. The journey of raising twins, or any child, is rarely as simple as it appears from the outside. Exhaustion, guilt, fear, and self-doubt are often hidden beneath acts of love and devotion. Yet these emotions do not make someone a bad parent. They make them human. True strength is found not in perfection but in persistence, honesty, and compassion toward ourselves. If you are carrying invisible burdens, remember that you are not alone. Every challenge faced with love becomes part of a story of resilience. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is admit they are struggling and continue moving forward one day at a time.